There are 37 of them. 37 miracles recorded in the four Gospels. You know some of them. Water into wine. 5,000 fed from a boy's lunch. A man walking out of a tomb still wrapped in his own grave clothes. If you grew up in church, you probably learned them as a collection. A set of impressive things that happened, scattered across 3 years, each one proving the same point in a slightly different costume. But nobody ever asks the obvious question, why that order? Because they are in an order, not a random one. Read them in sequence, actually in sequence, first to last, and something starts happening that no single miracle can show you on its own. The miracles get bigger. That part is easy to see. But something else moves alongside them, and it moves in the exact same rhythm, step for step. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time Jesus performs a greater miracle, he gets closer to being killed. Not as an accident, not as an unfortunate side effect of fame. The pattern is too clean for that. The escalation of power and the escalation of danger move together like two hands on the same clock, and the man performing the miracles knows exactly what time it is. He says so at the very first one, a wedding in Cana. His mother comes to him with a small, embarrassing social problem. The wine has run out, and his answer is one of the strangest sentences in the Gospels. My hour has not yet come. Stop and consider how odd that is. Someone asks for help at a party, and he responds by referencing a schedule. Not a schedule of ministry, not a schedule of teaching. In John's Gospel, the hour is never anything else. It means the cross. It means his death. At the very first miracle, before he has healed a single person, before a crowd has ever gathered, he is already measuring the distance to his own execution. And then he does the miracle anyway. Notice what kind of miracle it is. Water into wine. It's not a healing. Nobody is sick. Nobody is dying. Nobody is possessed. The stakes are almost comically low. A host is about to be humiliated. It's a miracle over inanimate matter. The bottom rung. Notice also who sees it. John tells us the servants knew. The disciples knew. The master of the banquet did not even know where the wine came from. The most public event imaginable, a village wedding, and the miracle inside it is nearly invisible. That is the starting position. Lowest power. Smallest audience, zero consequences. Now watch it climb. The early Galilean miracles cluster around Capernaum, and they share a texture. A nobleman's son healed from a distance. Peter's mother-in-law lifted out of a fever. A leper cleansed. A paralyzed man lowered through a roof. These are healings. Real, physical, undeniable. But they are healings of individuals, in a small town, on the northern edge of a small province. And Jesus keeps doing something that makes no sense if fame is the goal. He tells people to be quiet. He tells the leper to say nothing. He silences demons mid-sentence when they start announcing who he is. Later, he will tell the disciples themselves to keep quiet about what they've seen. Scholars have a name for this, the messianic secret, and it has generated a century of debate about what Jesus was hiding and why. But read it against the pattern, and the answer gets simpler. He isn't hiding, he's pacing. Every miracle spends something. Every miracle makes the religious authorities a little more nervous, moves him a little further up their list, shortens the distance to the hour. He is not avoiding the destination. He is controlling the speed of arrival, because there are things that have to happen first, and a mob that crowns him too early, or a Sanhedrin that arrests him too early, would ruin the sequence. Which brings us to the sequence itself. 4 things escalate at once. Follow all 4, and the design becomes impossible to miss. The first is power. The miracles climb a ladder with distinct rungs, and he does not skip one. Matter first. Water into wine. Then disease. Fevers, leprosy, paralysis, blindness. Then the demonic, authority not over cells but over spirits. Then nature itself. A storm silenced with 2 words. A man walking on open water. A fig tree withering on command. And finally the last rung, the one nothing else compares to. The dead. 3 times. A widow's son at Nain, stopped on the way to his own burial. Jairus' daughter, dead perhaps an hour. And then Lazarus. He goes rung by rung. Matter, body, spirit, creation, death. Each level assumes the one below it. You cannot skip to the top. The second is geography. Plot the miracles on a map in chronological order and you watch a circle expand. It starts in Cana, a village nobody outside Galilee could find. It spreads through Capernaum and the lake towns. Then something significant happens. He crosses the water into Galilean territory, Gentile country, and drives a legion of demons out of a man who lived among tombs. That is the first miracle performed on unclean ground, for a man no observant Jew would have touched. The circle keeps widening. Tyre and Sidon, a Syrophoenician woman's daughter. The Decapolis, a deaf man's ears opened. And then, inevitably, Jerusalem, the temple city, the seat of the authorities, the place where a miracle is no longer a wonder but a political event. The third is audience. Cana was servants and family. Capernaum was disciples and neighbors. The feeding of the 5,000 was a crowd large enough to riot. And John notes they tried to make him king by force, which he escaped by withdrawing to a mountain alone. By Jerusalem, the audience includes the men who want him dead, standing close enough to hear. The fourth is consequence. Amazement, at first. Then argument. He heals on a Sabbath, and the debate turns legal. Then organized opposition, Pharisees traveling from Jerusalem specifically to watch him. Then conspiracy. Then a formal decision. 4 axes, 1 rhythm, they rise together. 2 details in the middle of the sequence prove this is design rather than coincidence. The first is the double feeding. He feeds 5,000 people on the Jewish side of the lake, and 12 baskets remain. 12. The number of the tribes of Israel. Later he feeds 4,000 on the Gentile side of the lake, and 7 baskets remain. 7. A number associated in Jewish tradition with the nations. Same miracle, different shore, different number. It looks like repetition, and it functions as a statement. The bread is for both. He performed the same act twice, in 2 territories, so that no one could claim it belonged to one of them alone. The second detail is stranger, and it is the single best evidence that the sequence is deliberate. At Bethsaida, a blind man is brought to him. Jesus takes him outside the village, touches his eyes, and asks what he sees. The man answers. He sees people, but they look like trees walking around. It half worked. This is the only miracle in all 4 Gospels that happens in 2 stages. Every other healing is instantaneous and complete. Here, uniquely, Jesus touches the man a second time, and only then is his sight fully restored. And of everywhere in the Gospels this could have been placed, Mark puts it immediately before Caesarea Philippi, where Peter declares that Jesus is the Messiah, and then, moments later, is rebuked in the sharpest language Jesus ever uses on a friend, because Peter has understood the title, but not the cross. Peter sees. Peter sees people like trees walking. The miracle isn't a story about a slow healing. It's a diagram of the disciples, placed at exactly the point in the sequence where their vision is half restored, and it needs a second touch that hasn't come yet. Then Bethany. Lazarus has been dead 4 days when Jesus arrives, and the number is not decoration. There was a widespread belief in first-century Judaism that the soul lingered near the body for 3 days before departing for good. 3 days left room for argument. A swoon, a mistake, a resuscitation. 4 days closed every door. Martha says it plainly at the tomb. By now there is a stench. He waited. John says so directly. He heard Lazarus was ill and stayed where he was 2 more days. He arrived late on purpose, past the line where any other explanation was possible. And then he calls a 4 days dead man out by name, and the man walks out. This is the top of the ladder. There is no rung above it. And so, if the pattern holds, if power and danger really do move together, this is the moment the 4th axis reaches its own top. Read what John records next. The chief priests and the Pharisees convene the council. They do not dispute the miracle. That is the remarkable thing. Nobody in the room argues that it didn't happen. Their concern is entirely practical. If he continues, everyone will believe in him, and Rome will come and take away both their place and their nation. Caiaphas ends the debate with a line of cold arithmetic. Better that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish. And John writes the sentence that the entire sequence has been building toward. From that day on, they plotted to take his life. Not from the healings, not from the exorcisms, not from the storm or the bread or the walking on water, from Lazarus. The greatest miracle produced the death sentence. The pattern isn't power escalating toward a crown. It's power escalating toward a cross. Every rung he climbed cost him something, and he climbed all of them anyway, knowing precisely what the top rung would purchase, which leaves one last miracle, and almost nobody counts it. Gethsemane. Night. The arresting party arrives, Peter draws a sword and takes off the ear of the high priest's servant, A man Luke and John tell us was named Malchus. And Jesus, hours from a rigged trial and a slow execution, reaches out and heals him. Look at what this miracle inverts. There is no crowd. There is no faith. Nobody asked. The recipient is a member of the party sent to arrest him. And the Gospels record no reaction whatsoever. Not from Malchus, not from the soldiers, not from anyone. No amazement, no discussion, no consequence. It is the only miracle in the entire sequence that costs him nothing further, because there is nothing further left to spend. He has already been sold. The hour he referenced at that wedding in Cana, 3 years and 36 miracles earlier, has finally come. And with the last free moment he has, he repairs the ear of a man who came to take him away. The first miracle was water into wine at a party, for people who didn't know it happened. The last miracle was an ear restored in the dark, for a man who came to arrest him, and nobody said a word about it. Between them, a ladder climbed one rung at a time, a map that widened until it reached the city that would kill him, and a clock he was watching from the very first sentence. Open the list again, all 37. Read them in order. You're not reading a collection of wonders. You're reading a countdown.